Welcome to OkState Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Fans, hey, we have a lot to talk about. This is going to be the basketball show, and we are going to combine both of the men's games, the one from over the weekend where Oklahoma State took down Utah, and then Tuesday night where they went to Houston, got off to a good start, played very well, did everything right except for rebound and then shoot free throws. And those two things really brought them down. We're going to talk about both men's games and the women's game. We're going to cover it all here on this same podcast. So it was a lot of fun. Got to see Oklahoma State play Utah on Saturday, and I will tell you this. Utah is huge. They are long. Last time OSU played the Utes was, if you remember that road trip where they played Utah on a Saturday, they played BYU on a Tuesday and just got their doors blown off in both games. Oklahoma State did not handle the length of Utah whatsoever in the first matchup, but give credit to OSU. They absolutely had just a tremendous game plan. Go to my social medias. I have breakdowns, whether it be Twitter on OkState Daily, Facebook, or Instagram. I have specific breakdowns of several different plays where Oklahoma State, what OSU did that really won the game for them, in my opinion, was that they forced Utah to rotate. Utah is a big rotating type defense, and Oklahoma State stayed a step ahead. Bryce Thompson would get a handoff at the top of the key. Patrick Sumnick would set a pick. There'd be a back pick from Chichi Avery, and then Connor Dow would be on the wing and kind of popping out and giving a popping motion to make sure that his defender couldn't sag. And meanwhile, as Bryce Thompson would take the handoff, that allowed him to get downhill right at the elbow. And the thing about Bryce Thompson, even Tuesday night at Houston, man, he has been getting downhill so much better as of late, and actually has 8 consecutive. Tuesday night, he snuck into that with that late bucket that he made at Houston. That put him, he snuck into double digits to make his 8th double-digit scoring outing in a row. So Bryce Thompson's been playing very well. Chichi Avery continues to shoot the ball. But Saturday, Oklahoma State, the first thing they had to do was that they had to handle Utah's length. I thought they did a great job of handling their length on the offensive end by just playing great offense, by forcing Utah to rotate and making Utah basically wrong at every step and being one step ahead of Utah's rotations, which either led to somebody like Bryce Thompson, or we saw Chichi Avery, sometimes Patrick Sumnick, get downhill and get a good shot in the paint, and or once that happened, kick the ball back out to Chichi Avery at the top of the key, Connor Dow, who hit a 3. So really, Saturday's game, I know that Asar, he scored a lot down the stretch, and I know there were eventually a lot of fouls in the game. Gabe Matson's a terrific player. He got his. Asar had 18, Gabe Matson had 11. And so, yes, they did get theirs, and there were some foul shots given, but it seemed like they were later. And Oklahoma State, for the most part, the other thing on the defensive end. So on the offensive end, it really felt like OSU forced Utah to rotate a lot by staying one step ahead with their rotations offensively. Then on defense, Oklahoma State just did a great job at challenging every shot from the Utes. Utah is quite a bit longer. They're quite a bit bigger, and they had a huge advantage with that in the first game, and Oklahoma State just eliminated it. So in that second game, it was a really good game for OSU, a game that was very, very, very enjoyable, and one that I was there. It was a pretty good crowd. It was a lot of fun to watch Oklahoma State play in front of all of the great alumni that helped make Gallagher-Iba Arena, at one time, the rowdiest arena in the country. Jalen Montanati was there, a big basketball recruit. So in the first half, Oklahoma State got out to a quick 9-1 lead and kind of held that as far as that lead for a while. Utes went on a 9-2 run later and got back in the game. OSU then responded by scoring the next 5 points. Then after a good amount of back and forth, Oklahoma State went on a 12-5 run over a 3-minute and 2-second span and took a 40-29 lead with just a minute 13 left in the first half. To take an 11-point lead on a team in Utah that just really knocked the doors down of OSU just a week or so ago was very good. In the end, going to halftime, the score was 41-33. Both teams traded buckets for the most part in the second half, but then Patrick Sumnick, who had a really good game, not just scoring, but again, he set up the offense. He was really the one in the middle of the floor that kind of got Utah off of the rotations, if you will. Patrick Sumnick dunked the ball. Really, we mentioned whenever the Pokes got downhill that either Chi Avery or Bryce Thompson or whoever it may be could finish at the rim, or they could dump it off to Sumnick right there at the free throw line, who could just take one step forward and dunk it, something that we saw him do. Chi Avery hit a three, and Oklahoma State took back a 12-point lead with a little over 14 minutes to go in the game, so had reclaimed that big lead that they had late in the first half. Utah was never able to get it below 7 points for the rest of the game. They did get it down to 7 points after they missed a free throw, kicked it back out. But there was only a minute 18 left in the game at that point, and from there just really wasn't a whole lot they could do. So it was a lot of fun watching Oklahoma State play great offense. Again, made Utah really rotate, shared the ball very well, ran great offense. Patrick Sumnick had a nice day. Bryce Thompson is playing the best basketball of his career right now. Chi Avery continues to shoot it. Connor Dow does a good job. Arturo Dean is playing as well as he has since he has been on campus for Oklahoma State, in my opinion. So a really good game on Saturday. And then Tuesday night, Oklahoma State got off to a great start. The one thing, kind of like Utah, you have to match their length and their size and all that. You have to match the physical nature of Houston. You cannot allow them to come in and intimidate you. They like to bully the other team, and Oklahoma State absolutely did not do that. Jamyron Keller hit a three. Oklahoma State, right off the bat, like in the first 18 seconds, Keller nailed the three. Oklahoma State eventually got a 9-point lead, and really, to be honest with you, the entire game, everything was just about identical. Shooting percentages, Oklahoma State actually shot a couple percentages better than Houston. Assists, turnovers, points off turnovers, all of that was pretty much identical. The only stats that weren't were offensive rebounding in total. Houston way out rebounded OSU, and because of that, the Cougars outscored Oklahoma State 18-0. 18-0 in second chance points. Now, the Oklahoma State, when you go on the road and play a great team like Houston, a top 5 team, you can't just be good in most aspects of your game. You have to be good in every aspect of the game, and then you certainly can't be horrifically bad in any of the aspects. Oklahoma State was 6 of 12 from the free throw line. You got to make all your easy ones against a very tough team like Houston, and you got to match their physical nature on the glass. You cannot allow 18 second chance points against Houston. It's just literally as simple as that. It's not very often where you can take a game and you can make the claim that, hey, this one stat is the reason why a team lost the game. Usually it's a myriad of a million different things. But literally you can make the claim, in my opinion, that Oklahoma State lost to Houston simply and solely and totally because of rebounding, because of second chance points. Now, obviously, you'd like to have those 6 free throws that Oklahoma State missed too. But even if Oklahoma State shoots 12 for 12 from the free throw line, they don't win that game because there were way too many second chance points. So even though Oklahoma State got out to a 9-point lead, even though Oklahoma State played hard, they played well in every other aspect of the game, the rebounding was too much to overcome. And Oklahoma State actually, when Bryce Thompson hit that and one's what got him into double digits for the 8th game in a row. OSU actually pulled the game within 6. And if you remember, I know Houston scored on the next possession to make it 8, but it was kind of a squirrely shot. And if Oklahoma State could have just held Houston on that possession, you remember Arturo Dean hit another 3. OSU would have pulled that game to within 1 possession at the end of the game. So looking at the stats, Oklahoma State shot 51%. And this is what I'm talking about. They outshot Houston 51 to 41%. They shot 10% better than Houston did and still lost the game because, and then they were 7 of 19 from 3-point range, which is fantastic. Houston was only 8 of 21 at 36% to 38%. That's pretty much a wash there. And free throws, there's the 6 for 12 there. Houston was 12 of 14. So there you go. There's 6 hidden points right there that Houston got. And then the 18 points that they got off of second chances. That's 24 points. And the spread at the end was way less than that. So you can see just about where this game was won and lost. So the action, Abu Usman had 16 points, another good game for him in just 32 minutes. So he's scoring the ball very well. Arturo Dean, how about him? Very active night for Arturo Dean. He scored 13 with 4 assists and 5 steals in 29 minutes. And hey, OSU, to win, they need to shoot free throws and they need points off of turnovers. They need at least 40 points. This is straight from the radio broadcast and Dave Hunsaker. Between points off turnovers and free throws made, Oklahoma State needs at least 40 points each game. So to have the Big 12 leader in steals, Arturo Dean, is huge. He had another good night the other night with 5 steals in 29 minutes. Also added 13 points. So he was very, very active, as well as his 4 assists. So he's averaged close to 10 points a game over his last 4 games. So Arturo Dean is really playing his best basketball in an Oklahoma State uniform. We talked about Bryce Thompson. This is easily his best stretch as an Oklahoma State Cowboy, no doubt about it. Consistency, excellence, all of it. He had 4 assists, only 1 turnover. He had the 11 points. And so Bryce Thompson is playing very, very well. Chichi Avery also playing very well and shooting the ball very well. So everything was good, again, except for the offensive rebounding. Get that cleaned up. And to be honest with you, you have a winnable stretch of games if you're Oklahoma State. You have Arizona State coming in at 1 o'clock on Sunday. Arizona State, man, they had 2 free throws with 2 seconds left at home against Kansas State, missed both free throws and lost. And that was on the heels of the Arizona game where, if you remember, Coach Hurley pulled all of his team and all of his coaches off the floor, and neither team shook hands after the game. So Arizona State will be in a bad mood. Oklahoma State will definitely have to handle their pressure. As far as the Cowgirls, we're not going to dwell a whole lot on them. It was just a bowling shoe ugly game on Saturday. Oklahoma State got off to a slow start, and it just simply never got better from there. I mean, it was like they were just playing in molasses all day long. And to be honest with you, that's what West Virginia does to you. Oklahoma State, both Oklahoma State and West Virginia, those are 2 good defensive teams, and you could really see that from the very start for West Virginia. And Oklahoma State ended up losing 54-37. Very disappointing because there was a lot of ramifications, not only for positioning in the Big 12, but you figure positioning in the NCAA tournament. You're assuming Oklahoma State makes the NCAA tournament. I think it would be very disappointing if they didn't at this point. Heard talking about scoring with the individual, Staley Hurd and Micah Gray, just 7 points apiece, and Annegret Aussie did not score. So if you're going to go on the road against a nationally ranked team, a team as good as West Virginia, and you only get 14 points combined between Staley Hurd, Micah Gray, and Annegret Aussie. Now, hey, the other players are fantastic. We've seen Jaden Wooten in the TCU game can take the game over, right? The Oklahoma State has other weapons. Macy Heward can shoot. Tenon Magassa, she can score in the low post. Those players are fine, right? But for Oklahoma State to go on the road, and I don't mean to be throwing anybody under the bus or be too negative, but just to be very honest, for Oklahoma State to go on the road and pull off a victory at a place like West Virginia, you can't have 14 points combined between Staley Hurd, Micah Gray, and Annegret Aussie. Good thing about that is those girls don't do that very often because they are fantastic players. And so give West Virginia, in my opinion, just a lot of credit for just playing very well. Both teams we mentioned had been good defensive teams all year. As a matter of fact, both teams entered the game as top 5 teams in the league and allowing field goal percentage against, and were the number 2 and number 3 teams in allowing the fewest amount of 3-pointers. So we saw that with Annegret Aussie going blanks for that game. And it wasn't just like Oklahoma State was hot and cold and it was one of those frustrating games. It was just consistently, Oklahoma State just never got started. I mean, just absolutely never got started. OSU scored 6 points in the first 3 minutes of the game, then did not score again until almost halfway through the second quarter. I'm going to say that one more time. OSU scored 6 points in the first 3 minutes, and they did not score again until halfway through the second quarter. And then after scoring a couple of buckets in a row, then scored just 4 points in the last 5 minutes and 4 seconds of the first half. That just goes to illustrate right there the type of struggle the Cowgirls had offensively on Saturday. From that point on, OSU got outscored 16-12 for the rest of the quarter and went into the fourth quarter trailing 41-29, and then just made one bucket in the first half of the fourth quarter and entered that quarter down 12. So, again, it was a struggle. But enough with the negative, because the mood and the vibe around this team is overwhelmingly positive. There are going to be games in a long season that just you don't get things going, and that's one of them. The Kansas game was one of them for this OSU team, and then we saw in the Houston game. There are times where just things just don't happen and they don't work. But again, this has been an overwhelmingly fun and positive season. Still every goal ahead of the Cowgirls, and the next up, a huge game, 2 o'clock, Gallagher Arena, Saturday afternoon, huge game with the number one team in the Big 12. I think K-State, last I looked at the rankings, were in first place in the Big 12. And then from there on, the exciting part of this is that every game after that, really, if you kind of look at standings, there's a good chance OSU, the Cowgirls, will be favored in every game from there on. So super exciting. Hope to see you there at 2 o'clock on Sunday for the Cowgirls game and at 1 o'clock on Sunday for the boys game. I'm Casey Porter for OkState Daily. Thanks for tuning in, and go Pokes.